Okay, so we're just going to talk about getting the install of GeoPandas working. It can be a little bit tricky, so I don't know what that message is there. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I'm just going to start a new workspace in here, just so we have a clean break. Okay, so I'm just going to go new project, and it's just going to make a new virtual environment. I'm just going to call it example install. Okay, now it's picking up this base interpreter from Python 3.6. So you can go on to the Python website and download Python 3.6. You have Anaconda and it's probably installed Python 3.9 or something like that. So if you want to try this with that instead, you can, but just a base Python 3.6 installer, you can have multiple Pythons installed. Anaconda's good because it's got its own stuff, its own package installer and things like that and whatnot. Sometimes it can be easier just to start with a very base kind of empty Python install. So we're going to go with that, okay? So you can jump onto Python, downloads, Windows, and find the 3.6 install. It will be in there. It should be a Windows. See, that's 3.9, 3.6. So one of these will be the 3.6 install. You'll have to like scroll down and find it. 3.8, 3.9. But you could use a different version of Python. But sometimes it's a bit safer to use like a slightly older version. Seems to be a bit better for some of these packages. Depends on when they were updated anyway. So you can find the Python 3.6 installer, or I can dig it out and send it to you guys. And if you create a new workspace, it's making a virtual environment. So this is a little bit different to when we cloned the workspace and it didn't have an installer. So this is just done it, and see it's made this Python virtual environment. We go up here and go into settings, and we click on project Python interpreter. You'll see it's just got pip and setup tools. So we can do a open PyXL install package, and it's installed successfully, and now we can see that it exists in there. It installed that one because that was a dependency of that. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy, but actually what we need is the other packages and the packages that GeoPandas is based on. In order to do that, the easiest way to do it is to well, I've followed this because I've done it lots of times, but this is found this for you guys to kind of like have a bit of a reference. But basically we need these packages, and we need to make them match up the version that we're using. So I have used this website before, and it's an unofficial Windows binaries for Python extensions. So someone has lovingly gone through and made packages that can be installed and downloaded, and they have the binaries and the bits and pieces in the background, so it can just be easier to install them. So if you go onto that site, if you get Python 3.6, I can just upload these. But these are the ones that we need. So we need GDAL, PyProject, Fiona, Shapely to deal with shapefiles, and finally GeoPandas. So they're the ones we need to get GeoPandas working. So if you go onto here and you search, you'll see that you've got different versions for each one. So like a Win AMD 64 and a Win 32. So if you're using a 64-bit machine and you've installed a 64-bit version of Python, then you should be using the AMD 64. No promises. But back in our PyCharm, which is the example install one, if you click on this terminal, you'll see that it says venv, which means that we are running this virtual environment within this command prompt. Now, if we have the path to our different installs, so first of all, we want to go gdal so we can copy his path. And in here, we can do pip install, and we can install gdal. Pip install. Oh, okay, I just typed it wrong. I had a caps lock on. So it successfully installed that. And then looking at our little example document, where is it gone now? Hang on, that's completely different. It's here. I've lost it now. Did I go out of it? Hang on. Okay, so we have GDL, PyProject, Fiona, Shapely, and GeoPandas. So that's the sort of the order that we need to install them in. So I install GDAL, and then PyProject, which is the transformation, and we can go pip install PyProject. Oh, just an L. And then the next one was Fiona. So and then the next one was Shapely, and then GeoPandas. Shapely, copy its path, pip install, Shapely, and then finally GeoPandas. So the GeoPandas one says Py3 any, so it's any version of Python 3 is going to work. So it's going to collect up the other packages that you needed, and then you should say successfully installed. And it may throw an exception at this point and say you have to have some C binary things. But if it does, then let me know and we'll cross that bridge. Okay, so if I go, if I just say Python, can start a Python interpreter, and then I can just go import GeoPandas, and all being well, it will just import successfully. So it didn't throw an error, so GeoPandas is installed. So to reiterate or repeat, I'll just terminate that. So we have a base Python, just a blank Python install of Python 3.6, and then we went to the unofficial binaries, unofficial Windows binaries for Python extension, and we downloaded the version that matched of all of those and their wheels, special wheel files for installing Python packages, and they've got the binaries built in basically, and then we install them in that order using the pip install in our workspace. So if we open up a terminal, we've got the venv, and then we just do pip install and then the full path to that file that we download, those files that we downloaded, and then they should process and install all fine. And if by the end of it you can go into a terminal and you can just type in Python, opens a Python interpreter, and then you can just say import GeoPandas, and if everything went okay, then it should just work. So that's the install. I'm going to stop the video, and then in the next video we'll go back and we'll actually make the shapefiles.